Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Let's Play Warframe. I'm your host with the most, as always, Francois878, and today we're going to be doing a very quick review of Necros's brand new ability augment mod, Creeping Terrify. We are also going to be showing you guys a build for Necros that focuses on Creeping Terrify, but also really flushes out his other abilities as well, so he's not just a one-trick pony. This is a build I've been using a lot recently with Necros and have been having a lot of fun with it. First and foremost, though, Terrify is Necros' second ability. It's a CC ability. Basically, in the area of effect, all enemies will sustain a fear proc and will run away from you. Whatever they're doing, if they're attacking you, if they're running to attack you, whatever, they will stop what they're doing and run away for the duration of the ability. It's a great CC ability. The bad thing about Terrify is that you don't really get to kill the enemies that you're basically crowd controlling / proccing fear on, because they sprint 2 rooms away by the time the duration of the ability ticks down, and they just turn around and come back. So that's kind of the worst part of Terrify. However, the Creeping Terrify, the ability augment, fixes that. At max rank, Creeping Terrify will reduce movement speed of all affected enemies by up to 60%. It's awesome. It's perfect. And this allows you to take advantage of the enemies that are still under the fear proc, so they're not going to be attacking you, but they're not really going to be moving either. It's effectively a much quicker molecular prime at this point. Instead of having the molecular prime bubble move outwards from Nova, the Terrify cast is instant. And really, you could change the build that I'm going to be showing you guys here in a few minutes to really focus 100% on Creeping Terrify and really, I don't want to say cheese it a little bit, but you could very easily build for just power strength and just power range and really make the most out of this one ability. But right now, the build that I'm going to show you guys is actually mostly efficiency, because Necros he's not actually a caster frame stats-wise. He's got a little bit more armor than your standard caster frame, and he doesn't have the max energy, but you're going to be casting Terrify a lot, you're going to be casting Desecrate a lot, you're going to be soul punching if you need to, and Shadows of the Dead pretty much needs to be up at all times. That's what I found, that with this build you have about 30 seconds on your Shadows of the Dead clones. You need to have that up constantly. The clones for Shadow of the Dead are great. They will help you defend the pod, they will take shots for you, they will allow you to revive allies if you need to, they'll provide cover for that. It's a great ability to have, period. Now, something I'm going to say about this build before I show it off, the Xeneric Focus Tree and Energy Overflow is recommended personally for me. I find having energy overflow and having that extra energy regen is great. But here we go. Here's the build. We have corrosive projection or energy siphon there, depending on what the team composition is. We've got power drift in the Exilus slot. The little extra power strength is great, especially since power strength affects the number of enemies affected by Terrify. It's something you have to have a little bit of at the very least on this particular build. I have Vitality on Necros right now, though there is other mods you can have. Health Conversion is also an interesting choice, especially since you're going to be desecrating and picking up health orbs all the time, so you always get those stacks going. Primed Flow is on there because you need as much energy as possible so you can continuously cast Desecrate, Terrify, so you can keep Shadow of the Dead up. Stretch is a great ability. Power Range is great on every single ability except for Shadows of the Dead, and it's absolutely a must since you don't have it overextended on this build. Natural Talent, a lot of Necros's abilities are slow to cast, so Natural Talent is a must, or you'll be dead before you finish the cast on a lot of these. Primed Continuity and Fleeting Expertise. You don't really have to worry about duration a whole lot for Terrify. You want to have your duration close to 100%, but because Necros doesn't have any channeling abilities, it's not that big a deal. It's not going to affect his efficiency on any of his other abilities. Next, we've got Intensify, again, for power strength. That affects the number of enemies affected by Terrify. It also affects the clone's stats on Shadows of the Dead. And last but not least, obviously, Creeping Terrify. That's what the whole build is about. Now, what we have here is the actual numbers for your abilities. Creeping Terrify is going to affect more than 20 enemies. You have very good multipliers for Shadow of the Dead. Desecrate, the only thing that really you can affect with Desecrate is the power range, and normally if you're going to focus on a Desecration build, you would have Overextended on there for as much range as possible, but because Overextended decreases power strength, which makes Terrify and Shadows of the Dead and Soul Punch less effective, I decided to pass on Overextended and just rely on Stretch. Now, also, Quick Thinking is a great ability to have on there, a great mod to have on Necros, especially if you have Primed Flow on there. Having that extra energy and having that extra effective health is nice. It can really get you out of a hairy situation if you absolutely need to. Overall, I really like Necros, and Necros is a solid frame when modded correctly. I think there is this stigma on him that he's kind of a one-hit wonder, and that, you know, you shouldn't use him unless you're desecrating, but that's not true. You know, he can be a very fun frame to use. He is kind of, with Shadows of the Dead, there's not really a whole lot of skill involved. You just hit 4 and let the clones basically either die or run their duration, so he could use a little work. But right now, I've had a lot of fun with Necros, and he's a lot of fun to use, and he's got a lot of great ability augments. I highly recommend experimenting around with his other augments as well. Necros is probably one of the only frames that have really solid augments all around. But thank you guys very much for coming. Let me know in the comments section what you think of this build. Until next time, folks, I've been your host with the most, as always, Francois878, signing off.